Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're doing something a little bit different. Normally, our racing content where we're discussing it is purely Mondays for the racing debrief. But the format for the North Wilkesboro All-Star race was announced. And I want to take a look at it. Now, I haven't looked at anything. Right? I'm kind of just I want to do the video as an initial reaction. Pretty much all I know is if I go on here to my phone at 6:33 p.m. There's a notification. I was at work. I know there's an option for 2 different tires. Haven't read anything into that. But I do know that's there. But that's it. Pretty much, kept it chill. The only real NASCAR news that I seen besides that was Eric Jones being out from his back injury from Talladega. That was a wild wreck, so not really surprised he's out. Hopefully he's getting better from that soon. He'll be able to return to the track. In that time, Corey Heim will be racing. We'll see what he can do in the Cup Series. But we're talking about the All-Star race right now. So, let's see. Now I have the NASCAR website pulled up here on my computer. It's not set up for anybody to see it, but it is here, so I can read through it. So let's see. Announced the All-Star race with new strategy element with multiple tire choices and new look qualifying. So you're going to have prime tires, which was developed through tire testing last month at the track. And the yellow letter, they'll have yellow sidewalls on it. So they're doing a little bit of the different tire compounds. It's a little bit like what you would see in F1 or in IndyCar. I think that's interesting. I really like the element of having different tires, different compounds. So it'll be cool to see that. And then the option tire will have red sidewall lettering using the same rubber compound as wet weather tires, providing short-term grip but rapid wear. Okay. I like it. So that's kind of like having a soft tire in F1, which again happens to be red. And I think the IndyCar one may also be red. I know they have a red tire in IndyCar. I don't know which one's which, but I think that might be the softer compound. It's kind of cool when you see a softer or harder compound that will do 2 different things. So that will be very interesting if they add an element to the race that will be exciting. Teams will be required to qualify on the prime tire, which is the traditional NASCAR tire, which was developed last month. That's the yellow tire. And then start in the main event on the option tire, which is the red softer tire. And then after that, it's all up to the teams. Now, how many sets of tires do they get? I think that's going to be a factor in the sets of tires and how long the race is. So the race is 200 laps. Okay. I guess the question is the format of how the race is done. I think that will show how much you can really see from that. This says the use of tire alternatives comes with NASCAR competition. Officials explore ways to enhance the series short track package. Obviously, that's something we've discussed many times. And I've actually wrote an article on my website, epiccw.net, and you can also find it on my X account article there about shortening or having each track have one race date, and also went a little bit into the discussion of the tires and overall short track package, which we've discussed a few times on the racing debrief as well. Kind of discussing things from Bristol, how Bristol you saw a lot of tire wear that had a lot of strategy to it. You had who's saving their tires, who's really good. I mean, at the end, you had Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex there killing it, finishing the best. Midway through the race, Ty Gibbs was doing really well with his car. Denny Hamlin's car wasn't great. So as everything sort of changed, who was able to manage the tires the best? And again, you can see the experienced drivers like Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex able to prevail over a younger driver like Ty Gibbs, who might have been killing it in the beginning, but had little issues towards the end. All right. So again, it says at Bristol, teams had to manage the tires. So, having a points event, you can try it, which is what they're saying here. I like it. I think it's interesting. I'm not against it. I've thought for a few years, especially since I started watching F1 in 2019, I thought, what would NASCAR like with 2 different compounds or 3 different compounds? So I'm glad they're trying that. I'm very excited for that. Yeah, and I like what they're saying here. Obviously using the All Star race to test things. Of course, we've seen some things of that with the lower horsepower restrictor plate type stuff. 2018, I think Charlotte had that. Maybe wrong. Maybe 17. One of those years had that. Provided a great race in that, and then they took it way too far and kind of ruined the racing for a few years. But it is a place where they try a lot of stuff, and I'm all for it. Again, you have a short track. You need to fix things. Why not try 2 different tires, see how that works? I'm not against it. All right. So if you can, make it work, make something like Bristol, I think you're good. Of course, eligible drivers are Cup Series points race winners from this season and last year, previous All-Star race winners competing full-time, and past champions who also race full-time. So, that's again anybody who won last season or this year. So basically, if you win a race, you're guaranteed the All-Star race for 2 years, essentially. So anybody who's won at all in 2023 and the first however many races this year. And again, if you're a champion, which I believe all the champions have won races in the last. No, Brad Keselowski hasn't. But besides him, all the other full-time champions won a race last year or this year. So there's that. And then you also have the, again, All-Star Open. 2 finishers make it through that, like always. And the fan vote. Make sure you fan vote for sure. I'll do a few fan votes. See what happens. So, this is where we get into some of the rules that are going to be interesting to follow. So, Friday's qualifying session, so the starting lineup for Open, which is, in the 60 heat laps. So that will obviously set the All-Star race lineup. The 200 lap main event will have 2 breaks this year. So doing a little bit more last year was very much a traditional race of just stop at the halfway point. Which I think was solid. Again, get a little bit more experimental with it. Why not? So, because we didn't see much tire wear last year. Main event will have 2 breaks, halfway point, and lap 150. So lap 100 and lap 150. Break it out a little bit more. Teams have 9 sets of tires for the weekend, 5 sets of primes, 4 sets of options. Again, the option tire is the red, softer compound. So, teams will have 3 sets of primes and 2 sets of options for preliminaries, which is practice, qualifying, heats, and open, and 2 sets each for the main event. So that's where you're going to see a little bit more of the strategy. Again, the whole weekend is 5 primes, 4 options, but 3 primes and 2 options are for practice, qualifying, heats, and opens. So in the actual race, you have 2 primes and 2 options. Very interesting there. End of the race, you're only going to have 4 sets of tires for the whole race. And that will be, again, both primes and options. I'm very excited for that. This says teams must use all 4 sets of the same, all 4 tires the same. Okay. Obviously, you can't use left and right sides opposite. Again, you see that in forms of racing that do have multiple sets of tires. F1, you can't put on a medium and a soft. You got to have all the same. Makes sense. That's obviously a pretty basic rule, but if you didn't have it written in, a team would do it. Um, Qualifying for the Open All-Star race will be on prime tires, which is the regular yellow tire. Teams can select either type for the start of practice, heats, and open. So, again, that gets a little bit of strategy in there. Which tire are you going to use for that? And again, to force the teams to have to pick, you have to start the race on the option tire, but then you have to make a pit stop at the midway, qualifying heats, open, and the All-Star race. So you have to pit at some point for some new tires. I think that it is very interesting. Of course, we're going to see the pit crew challenge again. We're not going to go through that whole thing, but I am excited for what we'll see with it, right? This is saying that they had an option tire during the 2017 All-Star race. I don't even remember that. Because it made a minimal difference in performance or wear. But I think it's one of those things when you do that at Charlotte, you may see something a little different at North Wilkesboro. So, yeah. This says primary tire for more aggressive with tires. Darlington's basically the dividing line between what they want to use, bigger or smaller tires, which I think is a solid one. Darlington's a little different. But yeah, I mean, I can see things that are, below the size of Darlington being one and above the size of Darlington. Because Darlington's 1.3, but Darlington's a very weird track. It's not your traditional almost mile and a half track. But either way, I think that's an interesting baseline to see that they're discussing, even a baseline of where would we want to see these tires run. I think is quite interesting, right? Because they're not saying we want to do this at Kansas or Texas or Charlotte or Nashville or whatever. It's just saying the smaller tracks, have that option and have that, prime and option tire, right? I think that, you can look at Bristol, Martinsville, North Wilkesboro, Richmond, New Hampshire, Gateway, Iowa. Any other tracks I'm missing? I don't think so. Dover. I missed Dover. So those types of tracks, right? You can potentially say, let's have these two different sets of tires, or just the option tires softer and, makes the racing more exciting. I think that's where it gets interesting. But I'm very excited to see this race next month. Hope you guys are. Let me know down below what you think. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. And make sure if you're on YouTube, you subscribe. And if you are on X, that you follow.